Okay, I think we are at the top of the hour. We do have people that are still trickling in. My other panelists will take care of that. So welcome. It has been a minute prior to knowledge. So all of May, we did not have any of these academy sessions, and I hope everybody comes back. Those numbers are kind of small, but I anticipate that will grow as the session goes along. So thank you for joining Platform Analytics Academy on June 12th. Again, it's great to be back from the long break that we had because of knowledge. Hopefully some of you were at knowledge, if not all of you. Hopefully we met some of you and shook some hands and had some conversations and talked about some really great things. I know that I did meet a couple people there at knowledge, and if I didn't get to meet you, but you talked to somebody else, maybe my coworker Dan or some of the other people on the Platform Analytics team, it was great seeing all of you there, and we really appreciate the fact that you came and listened and hopefully got some sessions in as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Maybe there we go. So as usual, this is always for you. We try as hard as we can to bring new things, practical guidance, understanding, and different things to you in these sessions. These are being recorded as usual. It'll be out on the community later on this afternoon or tomorrow at some point, depending on when I get the recording. It will also be out on YouTube. So with that in mind, please sit back, enjoy. If you're a note taker, I'm not going to tell you can't do that, but just know that it will be there for you later on. So if you just want to sit back and enjoy and take in everything, that is great as well. Please ask questions. But if you could utilize the Q&A, you and I, that would definitely help us out so we can actually monitor that. Because like I said, we do have panelists on here that'll be able to answer questions maybe via type. If there is a question that comes about that is relevant to where we are within the content, whether it be slides or demo, we can maybe stop that and ask that question to our presenter, our speaker. And then if there are any questions that are unrelated to the topic that we're covering today, please feel free to ask those as well. From a answering those live perspective, those might go towards the end of the session. And if we do not have time to actually get to those, we would ask that please ask those questions in the community, and you can tag myself or Dan Kane. Feel free to do that. Hopefully we'll get to all of the questions, but if we don't, please don't take it personal. Just ask those in the community and we'll try to get those answered. So today we are going to talk, well, let me also say safe harbor. If I can get my mouse to work. Safe harbor. I don't know how much is in here. Mr. Tilton, who's going to talk here in a second, may elaborate on some things, but in any case, it's always good for us to have a safe harbor here, just to make sure that if there is any forward-looking statements or even things that you see on the screen, that you're well aware of our safe harbor. So as usual, my name is Thomas Davis, and today we have Brad Tilton. I originally was going to do a little presenting, but Brad and I fixed that, so I think he's going to do most of it now. Dan, I know, is here. I haven't looked at the panelists. Adam may be here if he's not already here. I know that I saw Olga. She came in, and I believe that Robert John is going to be here as well. So again, we have panelists here that can definitely answer questions as they come in, and you may as well hear their voice at some point within this call. So today, what we want to talk about is platform analytics, crafting insights with UI Builder. So if you have been on any of our previous calls, as we have been talking about platform analytics, a lot of conversation around that. We actually did a session earlier this year where we talked about the inline builder. And one of the statements that that I know that I said, and you maybe have heard this, is when you go to create a dashboard and it asks you, do you want to create a inline dashboard or a technical dashboard? We've almost told you always stay away from the technical dashboard, because that does require a lot of development skills and things of that nature. But today we're going to throw that out the window, and we're going to allow you to see the other side of that. And that is why we have invited Brad to come in and talk us through a little bit about what UI Builder is and how we can actually use platform analytics inside of UI Builder. This is not a really deep dive into UI Builder and all of the great developing things that you can do there, but it was in our mind, it was just a conversation where we could actually show you that you can create data visualizations and filters and some other things inside of UI Builder. If you remember, UI Builder gives you a lot more ability to really control the screen and do some other things to it and things of that nature. And that is why we have always had the caveat: make sure you're a developer if you choose to click on that. But like I said, today we're going to throw all caution to the wind, and we're going to let Brad show us the amazing things that we can do inside of that. So Brad, whenever you're ready, please feel free, and we look forward to what you have to cover.
All right, thanks, Thomas. Hi, everybody. My name is Brad Tilton, and I work on our agent and end user outbound product management team and cover most of agent experiences. So workspaces, UI builder, theming, and really most things that touch workspaces. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about creating a more technical dashboard in UI Builder. Like Thomas said, when you create a new dashboard, you get an option, and Technical Editor is going to open up UI Builder. I think one of the notes on this slide is around starting from the dashboards. We're going to do that in a demo today. Today will be mostly a demo creating a technical dashboard and then adding some UI Builder specific things to it. And we'll kind of go over some of the different parts of UIB. But like Thomas said, UI Builder is really a tool aimed at kind of mid-skilled to pro code developers. It does take some training to get up to speed. So it is something that you will have to invest a little time in, just like Flow Designer and some of our other tools. Yeah, so don't try to create these dashboards directly in UI Builder. There's some magic that happens behind the scenes when you start from the dashboard editor and then it launches you into UI Builder. It knows the right experience to put you in and some of the other things listed on the slide here. So UI Builder is really it's really a page configuration tool at this point. So it's primarily used by our customers and partners to interact with workspaces, although it can do more than that. You can create workspace landing pages and list pages. And let me turn off my chat messages. List pages, record pages, and really do a lot of configuration and customization to those pages and make really rich user experiences that are maybe a little different than just a regular list or form and really customize and optimize that experience to your end users. All right, and then I think we've got some links here. I mentioned that UI Builder does take some time to get up to speed on. I think that time has drastically reduced from when it first came out in Quebec. We've made a lot of usability and performance improvements to UIB over the past few releases. But on this slide, this has most of what you will want to visit in order to get up to speed with UI Builder. This link on the far left is almost brand new, the sn.works/Next Experience Workshops or any workshops. This is a little site that we spun up that has links to just about everything else on this slide. But it also has the 4 labs that our team built for knowledge. We've got an intro to workspaces, advanced workspaces, and then a UI Builder centric, I think it's called Build a Killer single page app with UI Builder that just really drops you in and has you do all sorts of things in UI Builder and get you up to speed. And then there's also an advanced theming lab in there. So really anything that has to do with workspaces, UIB, theming, we are covering in those workshops. So that's a good thing to do. But I would start with the UI Builder Fundamentals course on Now Learning, which is this top right screenshot there. The sn.works/UIBFunW. And that really it level sets you into what UI Builder does and introduces you to a lot of the different terminology and kind of how everything works. So I would start with that and then maybe run through some of the workshops. And then we've got a couple of different video series on YouTube. We have our Next Experience Academy that runs the third Wednesday of every month. We didn't do it last month, and it's not going to happen this month, but we're going to do another one in July, where we're really going to focus on adding a dashboard, platform analytics dashboard to a workspace, because that's a question we get a lot. And then we also do a show called You and I Builder Live on YouTube. It's the second and fourth Thursday of every month at 3 p.m. Central. And that is where we tackle some problem in UI Builder without having practiced it beforehand. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we run into issues and troubleshoot them. And it's a real developer experience where you'll see people with lots of UI experience do something wrong or run into issues, and we have to solve them. And then we have a lot more links here, and I believe this will be available after the session when it gets posted. But there's a lot of documentation now. We're adding more documentation every release on the doc site. So if you visited it, a year or two ago and didn't have what you want, I would revisit it now because we're working pretty closely with the docs team, and we have a really great docs team that's adding more and more content all the time. All right, and with that, I'm going to get into a demo here. All right, so this is, I think everyone is probably familiar with the Platform Analytics dashboard page here. I think I called it the right thing. And what we're going to do in this is we're going to create a new dashboard and we'll add, filtering capability to it. When you use an inline dashboard, the filtering just kind of all works. When you do it through UIB, there's a couple of things that you have to add, so we'll show how to do that. It's not too terrible, but there is a script that you have to use. And then we'll do some UIB specific things to kind of showcase how you can really take a dashboard to the next level if you need to using UIB. So let's create a new dashboard. We're going to say technical editor, and we'll call this Brad Platform Analytics Dashboard UIB. All right. So we'll create a new dashboard, and then I believe it's going to show me the dashboard, and then we can edit it using UI Builder. So there's nothing on my dashboard so far. And when I hit Edit UI Builder, it's going to open it in UIB. One thing I'll note is that UI Builder is a store app now. So in the Washington release, we moved UI Builder from the family release to the store. And so we're doing big releases 4 times a year, quarterly releases. And so this version of UI Builder has the February release, and we actually did 2 May releases. So this is the most up-to-date version of UIB. So if it looks a little different than your UIB, and I'm going to call UI Builder UIB, then you may need to update your version if you want to get this. So if you're on Washington, you should be able to update to the newest version. Starting in Xanadu, we'll be displaying a message in UIB that tells you, hey, there's a new version available. You should go ahead and update because we know with store apps, one of the biggest pieces of feedback we get is that it's hard to keep track of when there's a new version with all of my different store apps. So we're trying to make that easier for everybody. All right, so the first thing that I am going to do here is we're going to add some components to my page. But I guess before we get there, let's look at UIB a little bit. So what we can see here up at the top is that I can see that I'm in the Platform Analytics experience here, or the Advanced Dashboard experience. And it's going to show me all sorts of dashboards that I have in this experience. And so what I have here is the one I've created, which is Brad Platform Analytics Dashboard UIB. I can switch to other dashboard pages or variants there. On the left here, this is what we call the content tree. As we build out the page, you'll see the structure of the page reflected in this tree, and you'll be able to click on containers and components and configure them. Down here, we have our data and scripts panel. This is something that's changed in Washington. So you have your data resources, your client state parameters, and client scripts, and I'll talk a little bit more about those. We'll add at least one of each of these in this demo. In the middle here, you see the preview, or we call it the stage. And this was something we updated in the May store release to where it is a true WYSIWYG. So what you see in the middle here is the actual runtime. That's why you're seeing the app shell up at the top. So you no longer have to do a ton of previewing to see if the styling that you've added is going to look right when it's in the runtime. On the right here is really where we configure individual components. And right now there is some page configuration we can do, like adding some styling. There's some default events, but we don't need to mess with that for this demo. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to add a component. And so UI Builder is built on our Next Experience UI framework. It's a web component-based framework with standard JavaScript web components. We ship between 200 and 300 components out of the box, depending on what plugins you have active and things like that. But we have most base level components like buttons and input fields. Then we have bigger components like form components and calendar components that are all configurable and they can talk to each other. We've also got some layouts. We introduced this column layout functionality in the Vancouver release. I think for this demo, we're going to add a side panel left layout. So this is our column layouts. I can change the percentages here. I can embed layouts within layouts. So it's a pretty powerful way to scaffold up a page pretty quickly. So one of the things that we'll do is, I think this is going to work. Yeah, so let's set that to 15% instead of 20. And what we're going to start with is we're just going to add a filter component, and then we're going to filter probably a single score data visualization and maybe a list. So let's add a filter component. And so this is the same filter component that you'd get through the inline dashboard, except there will be more configuring of it in UI Builder because it doesn't auto-configure like it does in the inline dashboard. So we're going to call this incident category, and ultimately we're just going to filter things by category. I know it's a super simple use case, and I don't know how practical it is, but this is what I came up with. So we're going to filter by category. We'll add a data source. We're just going to filter incident categories once it loads. So we'll select incident, and then we're going to use the category field. All right, so I have this filter, and now what we need to do is get it connected to the page so that when I select something, something happens on the page. So we're going to start by adding a client state parameter. Client state parameters are basically the page's scratch pad. You can think of them like scratch pad variables, or if you're a web component developer, this is a way to manage the page's state. So the state is you can change the state based on events, and then you can bind these state variables to components, and it will cause the components to update. So we're going to call this par filters, and there's actually a docs article that walks you through all of these steps that I'm doing if you need to do that at some point. I actually have it open in another tab, so I am cheating. I'm not just doing this from memory. It does have to be called par filters in order to work. So let's go ahead, close that. So I've added the client state parameter, and now we're going to add a client script that sets that client state parameter. So I am going to do some copying and pasting. So why would we type something if we don't have to? We're going to call it apply par filters. And we're going to paste in this script. So what this is going to do is basically just set my filters so that everything else on my page can look at the filter and then filter itself accordingly. We also need to add a client script include. What's it called? I think I'm going to have to, there it is, merge par filters. And a client script include is basically, you can think of it like a script include, but it's client side and only usable in UIB. But it's a place where I can store a single script and call it from lots of different pages. So just a way for me to organize my code a little better. So let's hit apply. All right, and now we're going to go back to my filter, and say when the filter is applied, let's go ahead and call that apply par filters client script. So we have the first part of this working. I'm going to select a category. It's going to change the page's state to reflect that category. Now we need something that's going to show up. So let's start with a single score component. But first, we're going to add a container. This one's a Flexbox container, which is kind of a simpler container than a column. We don't need a full column layout here. And what we're seeing on the right here is a bunch of presets. We don't need to get too far into this, but presets are basically a way for you to automatically configure a component in UIB based on some data. And you can see that there's lots of presets available. There is a search box, but for this, we don't need a preset. We're going to configure this manually. Presets are really helpful if you're working with record pages. That's kind of the main consumer of presets at this point, although we are building out more page templates that use more presets and controllers. All right, so we'll set this to row, so it's going to go sideways, although we're only going to add the single component here. And then we're going to add a data visualization. So this is the data visualization. This is the same data visualization component that gets added in the inline editor. And then I also have access to any saved data visualizations that I might be using. So we're going to add a normal one. We're going to choose none. And then we're going to leave it as a single score here. And we will point it at the incident table. All right, we will add that. All right, so I've got 85 total incidents in this instance. So I'm going to save this page. And we'll go ahead and preview it. I think this is going to work. That's my standard response when I build something. So let's go ahead and preview that. I hate the spacing. We'll fix that. But it should change if I say inquiry help. Yeah, we went from 85 to 47 hardware. All right, so we have this working at the basic level here. So I'm going to close back out of that. I am going to do a little styling, I think. So each of the components has this little style panel, and there's a number of things you can do with it. I'm going to add some padding in here. I think we did this in the Vancouver release where we made this kind of visual, which is really helpful for people that don't do a lot of CSS and always confuse where margin and padding was. That was me for a really long time until I was forced to learn it. All right, so that should give us some better spacing. So the next thing we're going to do is add a list component. So the single score is well and good, but let's add a list component. So I'm going to add another container for that. So I right-clicked and said add after. I'm going to add a second container. Oh, that was a column layout. So we'll add a second Flexbox container. Say none. And in this one, we're going to add a list component. There's a couple of different list components I could add. I'm going to go with the main list component. I believe if you're using the inline editor, it uses this simple list. So the main list component just gives me some more options, but it is kind of a heavier component. So if you don't need it, a simple list is fine. So we're going to say none. By default, it's just going to point itself at the task table and return all sorts of things. But let's point it at the incident table. And then this is the slightly tricky part here, is that I'm going to bind data. And so one of the tricky things about this is our new data binding that we added in the Washington store release. And we're going to Sorry, I'm copying something. And so we're going to do some state binding here. And so this is going to point my list component at at the same filter that my single score component is pointing to. The reason it doesn't automatically do this is because you could be using the list for something else and may not want it to filter on this page. All right, and then let's go ahead and just say return 10 rows per page for performance reasons. And then let's save and test this one as well. All right, so let's preview. Sometimes the preview doesn't quite keep up, so I'm going to do a hard refresh on this page, a Command-Shift-R. It's going to clear my browser cache for that page and then reload it. That is a very good thing to do when you're working with UI Builder because we do some really heavy caching with the new framework in order to make page loads faster. All right, now we have my incidents. So we can see if I want to do the inquiry help again, they have both changed. So these are all inquiry help. So obviously this is not a great looking dashboard, but hopefully that kind of helps you if you did have to build out something like this manually. This is one way to do that. So now this is kind of all data visualization specific, but there's scenarios where you may want to do something outside of just data visualizations, maybe add search functionality, write things to the database. For this next part of the demo, what we're
Hey,
going to
Brad,
do
real
is,
quick.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Since you just talked about the binding, we did have a question that came in. It said, could that also be used to bind data to additional filters, i.e., the selected priority filters, the urgency filter to only show urgencies that have the selected priority? So if I'm understanding
Uh,
that, maybe multiple different selections to bind that to.
Yes, I'm almost positive you can add additional filters here. If we have time at the end, we can test that out. But yeah, I'm almost positive we can add additional filters. One of the things that we did with the par filters is we made this a JSON client state parameter. And I believe the reason for that is so that it can handle multiple filters there. But we can double
Okay,
check that.
great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so what we're going to do is at the top of the page, we want to add just the most recent 5 incidents as cards across the top of the page. So, I think all of us have probably seen all sorts of requirements that people may give you when I added a column again, when building out dashboards. And this is maybe, I think I've seen something like this in the past. So we'll go ahead and do this one. So this is a none. So what we want to do is pull the 5 most recent incidents and display them as cards up at the top. We're not going to do this in this demo, but I could add a record watcher to this page and watch that table for changes and automatically update the incidents that get displayed up at the top. Anytime you're using Record Watcher, you do want to be kind of careful on how many Record Watchers you have on a page, how big is the table you're watching, are you adding lots of filtering to it because there can be performance implications when you use Record Watcher. But anyway, we're going to add a data resource to this page. So data resource is kind of the third leg of this data and scripts panel. And we're going to do a lookup multiple records. But this is another change we made in the Washington release. We tried to organize this add data resource panel a lot better and bubble up the most common data resources. So I'm going to say look up multiple records. And this is just going to return me, multiple records. It's similar to how you might use a glide record query. We are going to look at the incident table. And then for now, I'm not going to add any conditions to it. We're going to add those a little bit later and have it reflect the incident category filter. But for now, I'm going to add some return fields, but first let's take a look at what it gives me by default. So it's going to return, I think it's probably set at 100 records, and so that there are 1,000, so it's going to give me all 85 of my records. It's automatically going to return the display value for the table and then unique value, and then whatever the display field is, it'll return me the display value and unique value for that. We're going to add a couple more fields. So let's add short description. And we will add caller. And then we're also going to add the category. So you can see that the JSON output here is updating as I'm adding things, and it's going to tell me, let's make that a little bigger. It is going to tell me the values that I'm getting. So this is kind of nice. I don't have to wait and print it or show it on the page somewhere to know what my data resource is returning. And so let's go ahead and make sure this is going to show me the 5 most recently updated. So I'm going to find updated. And then I'm going to sort by descending instead of ascending. And then we're just going to return 5 back. There are some pagination controls. So these pagination properties on the component do work with our pagination component, which the pagination component is basically this thing that you see on the list component. But it's separate. So if you wanted to do something totally custom or be able to page through those incidents, you could configure that if you wanted to. So we'll close that. And then within this container, I'm going to add a repeater component. So a repeater component is one of the more powerful components that we have. It is basically an iterator or a while loop or whatever your iterator of choice is. And basically I can pass it a set of data and it will just loop through each part of the set of data and display something. So if I hit none, one of the things I'm going to do is enable styles, and that makes my repeater also function like a container. So I'm going to tell it to be a grid. So we have Flexbox and grid, and both of those have a help link that'll open up I forget which site it links to. But anyway, it just gives you more information on how Flexbox and Grid works. These are not ServiceNow specific, terminologies. This is kind of a web development specific thing. So we're going to give it 5 columns. We're going to give it a gap in between columns, and then I want to make sure that it spreads the whole page. And so we'll say 100% of the page. And so now whatever I add within the repeater, oh, we need to do one more thing. So we need to bind our data from my data resource to my repeater. So I'm going to open up that data binding window. I'm going to come down and select my data resource. And then we will add the results here. So it is expecting an array if you're a developer. And so it's going to, the results shows me that it's an array by this icon. So we'll go ahead and hit apply. I saw a question come in. Can using the repeater be a resource hog if it is shifting through a large table? Absolutely, it can. So, whether you're developing in UIB, writing code, the more data you're pulling in and the more data you're displaying absolutely can affect performance. So you always want to think about that. We do have a Chrome extension called Next Experience Developer Tools that does performance profiling. And so you can build out pages, render them, do performance baselines, and kind of see how different things affect performance. It'll give you a breakdown of how the whole page is performing. We did some UNI Builder Live episodes where we played around with the Next Experience DevTools extension, but it's very powerful. There's a lot in it. Anyway, let's go ahead and add something within the repeater. So we're going to do a card-based container. And this is basically just a clickable card. And I can see because my lookup multiple records data resource is returning 5 records, I have 5 cards here. This is also new as of the May store release in UI Builder. Previously, it only showed you one for performance reasons, but because we updated the stage, it's going to show you all 5. And I think we made it a little more performant as well. All right, so our card-based container is empty. Now we're going to kind of leave it as is for now, and we'll add some components inside of it. So I'm going to use a heading component, and we're not going to use a preset. And so we do make work better for people with modern digital workflows, but we're going to change that label. And so I'm going to go data binding again. And one of the cool things is since I'm in a repeater now, my data binding is contextually aware of that. So I can click into repeater, and then I can see all of those values for each of the elements that I passed into the repeater. So we're going to start with we'll start with a number field. And I'm going to give it the display value. So now we should see 5 numbers. Okay. Then after the heading, we probably want to see the short description up there. So we're going to go stylized text. So stylized text is going to let you use a few different HTML elements. So if I hit none, we're going to go and we're going to use a paragraph. And then we're going to bind the short description here. So I can click into repeater, then value, and then short description, and then display value. All right, so I have incredible demo data, and the last thing that we want to do is show what are our other category and color. And so we're going to do another stylized text here. I do have the ability to duplicate components, but these are different enough to where I think it's a little easier just to edit. We'll style this as an H5. And then for this one, we're going to use a formula. So formulas have been around for a little while in UI Builder, but I think with the Washington release and this visual data binding, they became much easier to use and a little more powerful. So if I click into formulas, I can see it's automatically sorted by popular, but I have lots of different types of formulas in here. So a lot of things that you maybe would have done through scripting before are just easier to do through formulas. You don't have to write any script. And so one of our best practices in UI Builder is to avoid scripted properties. So if I went and toggled here, I could just write a script and take in some things and return something. But scripted properties can be difficult for somebody else to come in and update later on. And they're also a little less visible. And so I'll show you what that means. So we're going to use a formula, and we're going to use the concatenation formula. And so one of the nice things is it tells me how this works and how to use it and what the output's going to look like. So let's go ahead and do concat. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to say in the first part, we want to show the caller. And then here, we just want to give it some text. So we're just going to do a little vertical bar. And then in the third one, we're going to add a category. And then we'll hit apply. And there we go. So we have the name, the vertical bar, and the category. And then we talked about we want this to update when I update the filter here. So I'm going to save this just because we've done a lot of work and it makes me nervous when I don't save. And so now we're going to go back into my data resource. Remember, we didn't add any conditions before, but now we're going to go ahead and add that same condition that I added to the list component. And then one last thing that we're going to do is remember we said when I change a category, we're going to execute this client script. One other thing that I need to do is I need to tell that data resource to go ahead and refresh itself and return me new data. So I'm going to click add. All right, and so we'll save that, and then we're going to preview. I don't have to save to preview, but it is a habit that I have. Save early and often. So let's go ahead and preview that. All right, so if I hit inquiry help, we should see this 2 go away. And it did. So now we have all inquiry help. So again, this is something that uses a repeater. I could make these clickable, but I think in the interest of time, we want to do some Q&A. We're not going to do that, but I could make these clickable. I could make them interactive, and maybe I could click on one, pop up a modal, type in a work note, and close it, and then update it. So all sorts of capabilities. That's one of the things with UI Builder. You're really not limited. You can do almost anything with it that makes sense. So yeah, so that's yeah, go ahead.
Who is that? Someone else talking?
No, go ahead, Thomas.
Okay, yeah. So a question came in, and just to confirm, so performance analytics indicators can be used with UI Builder from a data source perspective. So if you created something in here, and rather than pointing it directly to a table, could you point it to an existing indicator that was created?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. Why did my
Yeah,
instance?
definitely you can
Yeah.
you can select the same. So it just you mean like I'm not sure if it's in the cart as well. If it's data visualization, you have the same configuration, and you can also like retrieve data as well.
Yeah,
Got it.
so
So
click on
If
that
you're
and go
using
to
the
data
repeater,
source.
when you like look up multiple values, you can point it to the indicator table and then receive different indicators, and might need to apply different logic to it. So
yeah,
maybe
I
maybe
probably don't have
maybe
any.
off on the speaker to maybe
Yeah,
explain.
so it's showing indicators there. So yeah, you
Yeah.
can definitely do it. Yep.
Yeah.
No problem, Maggie.
All right. So do we want to just pause and do some Q&A?
Well, we don't currently have any questions, but we can definitely open it up if anybody has any questions. I don't know if there was anything else that you wanted to show, and maybe they can start popping questions in there. Or I always do like to always ask if any one of our panelists like to add anything to whatever you've talked about today as well. So I'm not going to point him out, but I got to wonder if Adam has something. Did I just say Adam? My bad.
No, I'm just excited to use all this stuff that's in here. We had so many limits before with what we could do. In responsive dashboards, you could do what you wanted to do, but if you wanted to go beyond what was shipped and what was standard, customization land was scary. We had some labs on it, but creating you just were custom right out of the gate, right? It either was an out of the box report or widget, or it was custom. You were writing jelly. You just had so much to do, and now that we have the power of UIB underneath us, the cards at the top is just amazing, right? I have all the standard components I want to have, but in a few minutes we were able to do some stuff that was very engaging, visually pleasing, and again, we can unlock anything that's in UIB. So I really like that now we have the 2 tiers. I still have it nice and simple and inline dashboards, but with a little bit of work, and maybe a couple training courses in Now Learning, you could do some amazing stuff and get exactly what our users want. And we don't have to export our data and do something in some other tool, right? Just great enhancements in Washington. It's awesome.
Yeah, so I see a few questions coming in. Let's try our second filter because I think it's going to be pretty easy to test. So I'm going to go ahead and add another filter. So if you see, I right click and duplicated it. So if I click into that one, we can just change this. Let's do priority instead of category, and then we can test and see if that works. All right, so let's save and preview that. And then I see some other questions coming in, and we'll definitely get to those. Oh, we got to refresh again. All right. All right, so now we have two. So let's try inquiry help again. And then let's see if we can also do category. Now we have some planning ones. I believe that did work. So it only applied one of the filters. So there may be a way to make both of them work, but this test only applied one of them. We can definitely follow up on that one.
Okay, and then the next one that came in is, can these dashboards be added to client-facing portal? And I know that you talked about a session that's coming in July, and I think that we may be working together on that one, actually showing some dashboards created in different workspaces. But service portal, I mean, if you were, could you display any of this content within any of those portals?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Generally, with a UI builder page can be displayed in a UI builder experience, so not service portal. You can always iframe something into service portal. That being said, I don't know, can you display an inline dashboard in a service portal? I'm assuming not, but I think they would work the same.
Yeah, and I think it's more data visualizations and things of that nature. And I don't know if Olga or RJ want to speak to that, but I believe it's more just being able to put visualizations or whatnot inside of the portal. Correct,
I
Olga?
think there's like two levels. The first level, if the UIB page itself has any limitations on exposing it externally, I think there's some level of controls on the page level itself. And then the second level of control is on your ACLs, right? It's data which you show. So there will be two level controls. So first, I'm not sure Brett maybe can answer if the page itself, if you put it externally, like any UIB UXF page, if it will prevent users from seeing it. And then the second part on the ACLs. ACLs you can configure. Generally, most of the ACLs which we have, you need to be like logged in users to get access to the data. I think there's pretty limited ways where you can say everybody can read the table. Also a little bit scary for your data, I guess. But if you are authenticated users in external place, like then the data will be shown. But I don't know, Brett, if you know if the page will render itself.
Yeah, so you could render a page within an iframe, but there's not a different way to embed a UXF or a UI builder page in a service portal because the technologies are different.
Okay, and then another one came in. Can you apply custom CSS to make things look prettier?
Yeah, so there's a lot of capability. So you can't the Next Experience UI framework doesn't allow you just to drop in a style sheet, but it does have a lot of styling controls. So all of our components have these theming hooks, and we expose those to the instance theme. So when you have an instance theme, all of the components will inherit whatever, colors, font, spacing, those things. And then with UIB, you have even more granular control. So all of our containers and components have a styles panel. So like we did a little bit of this, but in my styles panel, I do have quite a bit of options. I've got even more advanced options. And then at the bottom, I can apply some CSS to the page as well. So there's a lot of styling options. If you look at things like Application Manager, the admin homepage, the Now Assist homepage, all of those pages are UI Builder pages. So you have a lot of control over how the styling of things works. You just can't drop a style sheet directly into a page, if that makes sense.
Okay, great. And is there, Is there any ability to control what they're saying over the top banners and navigation? Can you create navigation on these pages and control it? And I guess banners, if there was any sort of maybe logo or something, things of that nature that you wanted to put at the top of this, all that stuff is possible?
Yeah, so part of that kind of depends. So in what we're looking at here, this is an analytics dashboard. So it's going to open up within the unified navigation, which is basically this app shell up at the top. So this is just kind of showing you what the page is going to look like. From the experience itself, you don't have any control over this. So these are all managed at the instance level. Depending on what type of experience you're using. So if you're in a workspace, you've got the L1 menu and then the tabbing across the top. You can control what shows up in the menu and how your tabs work. If you're using a portal experience, which is a very limited use case, generally for anything requester focused, you want to use Service Portal. But if you're using a UIB portal experience, you do have control over the menuing and the logo, and that does not open up in this unified app shell. It would open up in a new browser tab.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's see. Olga's responding to one. I am responding to one. Ruben, I'm guessing this is a comment to something prior. A previous question is more of a feature request, I think. Data visualization created should be available to select as a widget for a portal page. Oh, okay. I think I understand what you're saying, Drew. Yeah, I think the question that he is asking is the ability to take a data visualization and pop that into a service portal page as the way that a widget did existingly. And I think, Olga, maybe you talked to that, or does that change your answer?
Which question is this?
Well, it was the thing that we talked about a little bit earlier where we were talking about service portal and stuff like that. And basically what he was talking about is more of a feature request. Data visualizations created should be available to select as a widget for
Yeah, so
portal
that's
page.
that's something that what also Brad mentioned. Because it's different technologies, we currently don't have it. We are looking on the different ways to allow this.
Gotcha.
Hopefully in the future will be easier for you to create a portal directly with the UI builder, since it's grow and support all the features. But yeah, so at this moment, just for the technical reasons, we don't allow this.
Okay, great. Thank you. Dan, you had one that you wanted to answer?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of, I think, follow up on Ruben's question. Okay, yeah, he just said it continues to work on his question about the filters for PA and reports. They are not the difference is that they are not different filters. They are the same filter, but there is just additional configuration options within the same filter component. So I can add in capabilities for that filter to act against a live table and the ability for that same filter to act against a performance analytics indicator breakdown. So that the back end is still different for PA. It's still just based upon breakdowns. But the front end, you can do it all in the same filter. Just wanted to kind of clarify that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dan. Olga is typing that one. Ruben said, thanks. You're welcome.
It's too much typing. Let me cancel that.
Yeah, why don't you go for it? Go for it.
So the question is it possible to filter on multiple elements of the PA Workbench widget? I've seen it's not possible, but would like to understand why and if there's a workaround. It would be interesting to know if dashboard is capable of selecting more than one element too. So general, like first one, we don't have the Workbench widget yet available in the neither UIB or new dashboards. But if we're talking generally about filtering data based on the performance analytic indicators, we do allow in general to select multiple elements. You can select in the filter multiple elements and you can filter data. There could be some limitations. Where would you have limitation if, for example, if you have indicator with the aggregation as average or distinct count, and you want to visualize it as one value, like single score, for example, we and you select two elements, for example, category, inquiry, and problem, we cannot do it because how performance analytics works, we are storing data, we collect data with the job and we store them ahead of time. So we have just numbers for each of the category, and you cannot do average based on the just aggregated value. So there will be some type of indicators where you will have limitations. But if you have regular indicators based on the indicators with aggregation as count or sum, for those you will be able for all different indicators to do multi-select on both UI builder and regular inline dashboards.
Okay, great. Thank you, Olga. We did have one that came into chat that says, can you use cascading filters? But that may be a something that may be a little bit longer than the couple minutes that we have left. But I don't know, Brad, if there's something that you have quickly that you can say about that, or was that Olga getting ready to say something?
Yeah, that you can use cascade and filter both on inline dashboards and technical dashboards. It's I think we even have some academy which we showed how to use cascade and filter. It's available from the Washington.
We will put a session together to make sure that we actually show this. So thank you for asking the question, and we'll make sure that we get something available.
I think on the What's New in Washington, you should have the quick overview of how it works, and we might have a detailed session in the future.
Okay, great. So for the time, we have a couple minutes left. Real quickly, we had questions. So Brad, thank you. Super thank you for coming in and showing this. Like I said at the beginning, this is something that we have sort of tried as hard as we can to tell people to kind of stay away from. But I think that what you were able to show them today and all the advancements that we've had and how user-friendly it has become. You showed some really great stuff today that I'm sure excited a lot of people, and I'm sure that they'll start dabbling in that. So greatly appreciate your time and showing how to create some of the most simplistic things. We know that you can definitely get a lot more advanced, but this was a great place for us to start. So thank you, Brad. And with that, Brad spoke about this earlier. There is a UI Builder Fundamentals that is in Now Learning, probably some other things as well. But this is a great place to start. This is not specifically catered to platform analytics in any sort of sense. It's more around the idea of just getting you comfortable with an introduction to what UI Builder is, and can probably take you further if you choose to do that. So there obviously are some other useful links. Brad shared those in some of the slides we talked about earlier. There's obviously a whole doc section that is dedicated to this, but there's some really great content that is available out there, and I'll make sure that I put these links as well in the community event, that way that you can access those. So with everything, like everything else, make sure that you're utilizing the community as much as you possibly can. Really great content that's out there. This will be out there later on today or sometime tomorrow again, and along with all the other sessions that we have had over the past almost 6 years now. So make sure that you're looking at what's coming in the future and things of that sort. And Now Learning, as just a holistic look, go out there and search for anything that says analytics, and you can find a lot of different trainings that are available in Now Learning currently for that. Since platform analytics is still relatively the hottest thing out there, we have, again, we try to point everybody to our enablement toolkit. So check that out. We are adding things to that as well. Small little quick hitter videos, 2, 3, 4 minute videos that can help you. The other great thing about this is it's there available for you with PowerPoints that you can use to train up your organization as well. So no need for you to recreate the wheel. Use these that we have provided for you, and that should help you along the way. And with that, thank you to Brad. Thank you to everyone that joined today. Thank you to all the panelists, and we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you.